when he crossed the Delaware River. George Washington inspired his troops by ordering that Thomas Paine's American Crisis be read to every man in the colonial army. It inspired them and led them to victory. These words must once again inspire us, a new generation of patriots who are willing to make sacrifices to restore the American Republic. We seek patriots who are willing to throw off the yoke of our government's soft tyranny. In the immortal words of Thomas Paine, these are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will, in this crisis, shrink from the service of their country. But he that stands by it now deserves the love and thanks of man and woman. Tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered. Yet we have this consolation with us, that the harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph. What we obtain too cheap, we esteem too lightly. It is dearness only that gives everything its value. Heaven knows how to put its proper price upon its goods. And it would be strange indeed if such a celestial article as freedom should not be highly rated. I'm here to tell you that soft tyranny, what we suffer from today, is worse than hell. What are you prepared to sacrifice to restore the Constitution? It is time for Americans to thank God that there are men who do not cower in fear. We must walk in the footsteps of those great-souled men who declared and won their independence from British tyranny. We must confront our challenges and renew our independence. We must declare our independence from the soft tyranny of government. We must turn to our traditional values and principles. It is time to restore America to her rightful place as a beacon of hope for the rest of the world. There are men who are prepared to make tremendous sacrifices. They are neither summer soldiers nor sunshine patriots. They will not be found within the current political ranks. They are men of courage and conviction. They will strive for excellence and seek divine guidance. They are men like you here today who believe that God would not leave us in the hands of a profligate and immoral political elite. Our enemies will not be found in the sands of Iraq. They will not be found in the mountains of Afghanistan. The enemies of our liberties are right here at home. They are the profligate and immoral political elite in Washington. Over the course of nearly 100 years, they have methodically encroached upon our liberties. They have enslaved us. As the father of the Constitution, James Madison, warned, I believe there are more instances of the abridgment of the freedom of the people by gradual and silent encroachment by those in power than by violent and sudden usurpation. We have been gradually and silently usurped. What are you prepared to sacrifice to restore our liberties? Where will you stand on the day of reckoning? What will you tell your children and your grandchildren and their children? Now is the time to rally our troops. It is time for a peaceful revolution, a revolution that restores our God-given liberties. We can no longer sit still and suffer at the hands of petty men. We cannot keep silent when we know the truth. To keep silent would be an act of treason towards our country. It would be an act of disloyalty towards His Majesty in heaven, a majesty that we should revere above all earthly things. We have a duty to disobey unjust laws. As Martin Luther King pointed out in his letter from the Birmingham jail, a just law is a man-made code that squares with the moral law and the law of God. An unjust law is a code that is out of harmony with the moral law. To put it in the terms of Thomas Aquinas, an unjust law is a human law that is not rooted in eternal and natural law. We suffer from unjust laws. We suffer from laws that are not rooted in natural law. They are immoral. The ratification of the 16th Amendment in 1913 ushered in the income tax. It violates the fundamental right of property that is derived from the right to self-ownership. It strikes at the heart of the American ideal. It grants government the authority to engage in theft. It is what the great economist and philosopher of liberty, Frederick Bastiat, called legal plunder. In furtherance on the war on poverty, our government is engaged in legal plunder. What is considered theft by the average citizen is seen as morally just when carried out by the state. Many have forgotten that government is subordinate to man's proper ends. It is subordinate to his salvation. The Tea Party movement recognizes that family, faith, and the working out of our salvation transcends government. We recognize that man is pre-political. We recognize that when government ceases to be subordinate, it becomes unjust. It becomes a band of robbers. As St. Augustine pointed out in the City of God, you have heard it said that the polis, the state, Rome, or Caesar are supreme. But I say unto you, God is supreme. Man's highest good is salvation, not earthly happiness. Man is made for God, and the state is made for man, to provide him with a modicum of peace, justice, and freedom in which man can work out his salvation. But the state cannot achieve salvation for man. Hence, it is not only limited, but it is also subordinate to man's highest ends. Either the state serves man's highest end, or it is illegitimate. If there is no justice, what is the state but a band of robbers? Like our forefathers, we understand that government and politics plays a subordinate role in our lives. We understand our Judeo-Christian heritage. We, like our founders, have sought out the wisdom of the classics of Western civilization. We stand here today because our politicians have exceeded their constitutional and natural authority. They are subordinating our lives to government. The founders understood that our government could achieve its proper end by protecting our God-given unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This is why governments are instituted amongst men. However, our God-given unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness have been violated. We must again appeal to those enduring truths in the Declaration of Independence and candidly submit the facts of our current soft tyranny. We must list that our government no longer protects the right to life. It supports the genocide of Planned Parenthood. It no longer seeks to protect our liberties or allow us to pursue our happiness. It destroys our liberties by inflating the dollar. It seeks to subordinate our idea of happiness with the preferences of the political elite. It will deem what sort of health care you can and must have and must buy. The Constitution does not grant us rights. It serves to bind those who govern. It does not bind the citizens. It is the rule of law for those who seek to govern. As James Madison points out in the Federalist Papers, if angels were to govern men, neither external nor internal controls on government would be necessary. But lacking these in framing a government which is to be administered by men over men, the great difficulty lies in this. You must first enable the government to control the governed, and in the next place, oblige it to control itself. We are obligated to throw off the abuses of our government. We have a duty to prudently restore our government to its proper role, to alter its course. As the immortal words of Thomas Jefferson instruct us in the Declaration of Independence, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted amongst men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that when any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. It is time to peacefully, I stress peacefully, provide new guards for our future securities. It is time to live up to the promise of the Declaration of Independence in the American Revolution. It is time for peaceful resistance at the ballot box. It is time to relieve America from the oppressed hands of the hubris of our political elite. It is time to put her in the hands of men who cherish their liberty, of men who will strive to restore those great principles. God bless you and God bless America.